Hey, howdy everyone, Lost in here, back in action for more investigating attraction. That's right, we're playing the Great Ace Attorney. Ooh, Resolve. And that means on the 21st of February, on Briar Road, things be happening. Whatever do you think will happen now? Good question. What a strange situation for Mr. Natsume. Arrested for murder and then the victim comes back to life? I think perhaps the victim was never dead in the first place. It seems very likely that Mr. Shamspear did consume poison, as we deduced. But was it an accident, attempted suicide, or attempted murder? Until the truth can be established, I imagine the police will keep Mr. Natsume in custody. I suppose so. Let's hope it doesn't come to anything more than a night in cells. What's this? What's that man doing over there? Looks like he's trying to see into Suzuki-san's lodgings. Something wrong, Mr. Naruto? Excuse me. Can we have a word? Just ran off. I'm not sure that I've seen that man somewhere before. Where was it? I do too, but I don't remember. Well, time to examine the bike. There always seems to be a bicycle outside the Garrideb residence. I read that bicycles are extremely popular all over Great Britain at the moment, in fact. That one seems very warped though. Especially the front wheel. Is that to make it more of a challenge to ride, you think? No, I'm afraid that may be a result of the rider's competence. For the front wheel to be so badly warped, I'm afraid the rider may have been similarly affected. Then there's a good chance Mr. Natsume has been practicing on this bicycle, I think. Oh dear, I fear you may be right. He's scroll releases. The section of the top floor where Mr. and Mrs. Garrideb live, all the windows are bricked up. Yes, that's because of an old window tax that was charged on the number of windows a property had. In order to pay less tax, the poorer member society filled in many of their windows. The tax has since been abolished, hasn't it? So the windows could all be opened up again, surely. Unfortunately, it would appear that the residents of the district can't afford to pay to have the work done. Yes, that is a sad state of affairs. Especially for people like poor Natsume, who have to live all cooped up in a windowless room. I suppose that's a price you pay for living in a very cheap accommodation. All seems rather pointless when you put it like that. I mean, what more can you really say, right? The Garrideb household and Mr. Natsume's lodgings are in a prompt position there on the corner. Sometimes when you look at the building, I can't help feeling that it's at a bit of a slant. It does rather look as though it would collapse in even the smallest earthquake, doesn't it? But isn't it supposed to be haunted as well? I think I might have a hunch as to why Suzuki-san has such a hunched back. Because he's part hunchback, right? Right? Oh. Yeah, this Professor Layton, there'd be a hidden coin here. I'd be like, oh, I gotta find all the hidden coins. London's blanketed in fog again, and the sky is covered in cloud. If you look carefully in the distance, you just make out the Crystal Tower being built. Ah, the Crystal Tower, yes. The centerpiece of the Great Exposition. That's to open in 6 months' time. Everyone's talking about the Great Exposition of London at the moment, it seems. Well, it's to be the largest event of its kind anywhere in the world, with technology and scientists from all over. I can't wait for it myself. Do you think visiting students from the Far East, like us, will be granted entry? The last great exposition that was held in London had more than 6 million visitors, it seems. And this time, the British are determined to make it an even bigger success to outdo the British exposition. I see. That's an incredible number of people. With so many people expected to attend, we shouldn't easily be able to slip in unnoticed. There's always the honest approach of buying tickets at the main entrance, Mr. Naruto. He's like, yeah, I don't have the money. This job does not pay. Ah! Press the wrong thing. Snowman! Why was somebody built this snowman on some sort of pedestal, do you think? That's not a pedestal, Miss Naruto. That's part of the snowman's body. Really? It already has a perfectly good body. Well, it's true that British snowmen are usually made with 2 balls of snow. Perhaps this is a foreigner. And now we're looking at him as if it's strange. Poor man. Oh, he feels. If anything, it's Japanese and British 2-ball snowmen that are the strange ones, isn't it? After all, few people do have 3 sections: head, torso, and legs. Do you ever think that perhaps you think about things too much? I mean, you know, it's allowed to have 3 parts to him. Yeah, I'm not seeing much else here. I don't think this is a place to go sniffing around for clues, as it were. So, around. Okay, that was back. So let's move. Let's move to the next location. A new location has been added. Let's go to the Carpenter's room. February 21st. The Garrideb's room. Here we are again. The eccentric landlord's eccentric top floor abode. We're here because Mr. Garrideb is the one who discovered the incident this morning. Don't forget. Oh, it's shop set? Yes, good morning, sir. Thank you for your cooperation in court yesterday. It was quite a trial. Much as Mr. Garrideb as anyone, really. Came straight back here after all that business at the Brayley yesterday. Didn't expect to wake up to more bally nonsense this morning. I wonder if you wouldn't mind telling us exactly what happened, Mr. Garrideb. Yes, I suppose I'd like to know about the dead loss of an actor chap in the ground floor room. Those were exactly Inspector Grayson's work, weren't they? Well, can we present? Let's do it, baby! Present to you. Oh, wait, no. Present to you. Mr. Garrideb, can I show you this? Been quite a couple of days, as you can imagine. Afraid I'm rather tired. Haven't really got the energy in my old eyeballs, to be honest with you. Some other time, then. Okay. Well, he's gonna go talk about that, then nowhere else. Nothing. To see Mr. Garrideb's, Medal of Honor, still proudly displayed on the wall. The inscription reads, for distinguished participation, if you remember. Yes, I remember. Because I remember thinking even I might stand a chance of picking up honors like that. I didn't know it to look at me now, perhaps, but I had my devil-may-care days, you know? Devil-may-care? What do you get up to? Well, all in the past now, of course. Best left there. Best not. I want to know now! It's best known later. You look very dashing in your uniform, there, Mr. Garbodor. Garrideb. Well, that old, portrait, eh? Run by an art student who used to rent the room downstairs. Oh! You look so wonderfully, young and courageous and strong. Yes, well, the chap, presented, to me, one day and asked if I let him off, month's rent in return. Oh, I see. So, you did, presumably? I barely, well, did not. Oh. Portrait is a portrait. Rent is rent. Yeah, it's still there proudly on the wall. Right? You know what the screen is hiding now. The aftermath of the fiery, altercation the other day. Don't suppose I'll be able to clean that mess up for some time now. Oh dear. This must be a very difficult situation for you. I'll say. People talk about twists of fate and whatnot. This is a twist and a half. A rotten show all around. Really struggling with everything that's happened. Yeah. It's a single apron drying on the enormous cannon-shaped clothes horse. Fuck. No, Mr. Naruto. That's a real cannon. I knew that. I was just testing you. Piece of history, that is. Seen plenty of action on the battlefield, I can tell you. Now, the old girl and I are just enjoying the peace and quiet of retirement together. And of course, she come in handy if the enemy decided to launch an attack again. Is there a war going on that I don't know about? You never know, right? That's your military uniform, isn't it, Mr. Garrideb? Well, experimental garb, yes. Been hanging on the wall ever since my retirement bash. Not an active service now, you know. Doesn't mean much to me anymore. You could have the old thing if you wanted it. Well, it might suit Lord Von Zeeks, perhaps. An overly ostentatious outfit like this could be just what he needs. Very tactful, Miss Sasato. Very tactful indeed. What else we got here? Got books? Got books! Oh! A copy of Remnant's magazine. The Adventures of Herlock Sholmes is being read all over London. Isn't it wonderful? Naturally. One asks oneself if such a singular detective could really exist. But having met the chap, undeniable. He is most certainly singular. Singularly dangerous. That's general public opinion for you, Mrs. Sato. Perhaps it should be reflected in the stories? Make no mistake, Mr. Naruto. I intend to snuff out the sort of public opinion we just heard personally. I'm starting to see where Mr. Sholmes' untainted reputation comes from now. From fangirls. That's valid. It's like Mr. Cumberpatch. That's an impressive collection of cakes on the fancy silver cake stand there. I was sure that it was full of cakes when we first investigated here as well. Yes, quite right. Haven't touched it since. Haven't done much at all, really, since it all happened. Time's rather stood still for me, you know. Oh. I must stood still. Now that's an interesting phrase. I'm able to use that as an excuse when I'm next supposed to be tidying at the office. Could just tidy up, Mr. Naruto. These shelves look like they've been completely torn apart by a wild beast. Reminds me of a battle of Mewant, don't you know? The experiences of a seasoned veteran. Enemy had us surrounded on all sides. We really thought we were done for. Old Bolly company. We were talking a real pounding from these cannons. So all we could do was run for our lives. Oh, I thought the story was going in a different direction, actually. Well, the whole experience taught me one thing. I can tell you. When you're done for, you're really done for. It's not what a lawyer who often finds himself under fire wants to hear. And yet here you are, being under fired. Guess Mr. Slomes would want one of these candles for breakfast. Nice to say, we've done enough looking around. Come better see. This morning is yesterday's incidents. After Mr. Natsume's trial yesterday, you came straight here, back here, I believe? Didn't you? Did you notice anything strange between then and this morning? Oh no. Must have been about 6 in the evening by the time I got home. Snow was coming down rather heavily, as I remember. It was completely dark already. A failed actor chap was out at the time. Mr. Garrideb notices there was no light from his room or something, I suppose. Couldn't summon the energy for anything much. So I just sat in front of the fire up here. It was after 8 before Shamspear got back. And chap was up until past 1 in the morning. I'll have you know. Suppose he met his end sometime after that. I was asleep by then, so I'm rather in the dark there. Well, thank you. That was very illuminating. Is everything alright, Mrs. Sato? Well, I was just thinking it's a little strange, that's all. Mr. Garrideb, you were up here in your room all evening? If I've understood correctly. Not a big fan of stairs. Not with this blasted leg. Then, how is it that you seem to know? Precise movements of your tenants on the ground floor, I mean. Oh! That's a very good point. Can't imagine that you could hear a noise from the ground for all the way up here. Old man like to spy on his tenants? Is that it? I say, I know what you're thinking, and it's a bally outrage. I'm ex-military, don't you know? I don't go around spying on my tenants. Why would I? And how do you know, Mr. Garrideb? It's the gas, woman. The gas tells me everything. The gas? Speaking of gas. Jumping gas? It must have been a real shock for you this morning. I hear that you discovered what had happened. Well, hopeless actor chap raises at 5 o'clock sharp every morning without fail. And at 5:30 this morning, still hadn't lit the gas. So I went down and knocked on his door. No bally answer. And that's when you broke into his room by kicking down the door. Well, I called on that rum-looking Japanese chap to do the grunt work. Was it a little premature to kick the door down? The man could have just overslept by half an hour. That's very true, Mr. Naruto. If 30 minutes oversleeping warranted such behavior, I have to kick your door down every morning. Well, you know, better to be safe than sorry. Is it just me, or is he avoiding our gaze now, all of a sudden? Except that he was a sorry situation indeed that you found on the far side of the door. Oh? The victim's name is Mr. Shamspear, I believe. Is that right? Yes, William Shamsbale. Took the ground floor room 3 months ago now. And how would you describe him? In a word, astute. Astute? Well, let's face it. The only redeeming feature of that room is the cheap rent. Anyone wanting to live in a place like that is either broke or has a bally screw loose. It's hard to choose which category a Suzuki-san would fall into. Mr. Naruto, that's a little rude. He's doing research as well. Research? Into what? Shakespeare, of course. Shakespeare. Read a few plays of the old bard and myself, you know? Romeo and Hamlet and all that. Yes, William Shakespeare is England's most highly regarded classical playwright and author. He's known as Sao in Japanese, as you know, and many of his works have already been translated. It's incredible that Shakespeare was shortened to Sao, though. Somehow, someone was too heavy-handed there. A lot of costumes in the victims' rooms, actually, weren't there? Of course, Mr. Natsumi is a scholar of English literature as well. I imagine he and Mr. Shamspeare would have had much in common. Shakespeare interpretation disagreement leads to shocking murder. Let's hope it's not that. Mr. Naruto, really? How rude. She just reads his mind every time. It's just so funny to me. What on earth do you mean, sir? How can the gas tell you anything? Let alone everything? Well, as you're probably aware, the gas is supplied to the building by pipes. So more or less work that out. Every room in the building is connected by a single pipe to the gas main outside. And the gas company supplies gas to properties via the main. Yes, I understand that, too. Let me see if I can explain. Let's say I was to light the gas lamps up here. What do you suppose would happen? Well, obviously the room would get brighter. Exactly. At the same time, the lights in all the other rooms of the house would dim for a moment. What? They dim? Why? Perhaps it's because when you light a gas lamp, it briefly uses more gas than usual? And that reduces the amount of gas in the pipe or the other lamps that are connected to it. Might explain why the other lamps dim momentarily, might it? Yes, of course! Everything's connected to a single supply pipe. Is that supposed to happen, though? Sounds rather undesirable. Another good point. Fact is, gas companies' pipes in these parts are pretty hopeless. Long worn out. Barely got any gas in them to start with. Opposite is also true, of course. Extinguish the lamps up here, they glow brighter in the rest of the house. Ah, right, I see. By watching the flickering of the lamps in one room, you determine what's happening elsewhere. Got it. Oh, of course, because when people come back home in the evening before they go to sleep at night, what they're guaranteed to do is either light or put out their lamps and fires. Clever. Clever. In point of fact, the room on the ground floor and the one above it use slightly different amounts of gas. By watching the lights here closely, you'll work out almost exactly what's going on in the whole house. Gosh, that's fascinating, Mr. Garrideb. Absolutely fascinating. Oh well, nothing into it, really. Can't really see what's going to help us with the case either. But I'd like to know is why Mr. Garrideb is so interested in what his tenants are up to in the first place. I feel like there's more to it than idle curiosity. Well, we've done as much investigating here as we can, I think. Perhaps we gotta go to the prison and speak with Mr. Natsume again. A good idea. Alright. Off we go. Well, head back, I said back. Ooh. Alright. These are all the places I could go off to and whatnot. Let's go back over here, actually. 21st February. Naruto's legal consultee. Okay. Let's present her with this. Every time I hit the wrong button. You've been wearing that ever since we arrived in Great Britain, haven't you? Well, that's what shows that I'm a lawyer, so it seems appropriate. I'm not sure that it really means that much in this country, though, I'm afraid. I wouldn't say that. It might not be official, but it looks official. Often when the police stop me, I just show them this and they leave me alone. You're stopped by the police? Often? Well, you know, I'm a suspicious foreigner, dressed all in black with a sword at my side. I do think it's probably the sword that's the main reason. Still, it makes me happy to see you wearing it. And the armband. Yes, I made up my mind that I'll carry them always. The symbol of who I am, the sword. Kuruma. Oh, that's sweet. He misses his boyfriend. What is this? Perhaps we should put the spade away somewhere. That's not a spade, Naruto-san. It's a shovel. No, shovels are for digging. That's for scooping up loose material. It's a spade. No, spades are for digging. That's for scooping up loose material. It's a shovel. Yeah, shoveling snow. She's right. Well, it doesn't really matter, does it? You're so right, Naruto-san. You mustn't quarrel over such trifles. On reflection, then, I think I'll leave this spade where it is. Yes, I think that's for the best. We may need a shovel when we're working in the garden. They are very hard, like, sibling, like, agree to disagree, passive-aggressive motherfuckers. Like, it's just so funny to me that they would do that. They're like, oh, no, you could be wrong, that's fine. But I'm not gonna agree with you. This is, like, ever. You're just wrong. Oh? These tanks are for keeping sea creatures. They're called aquariums, and they were all the rage in London at one time, apparently. Yes. The English are so clever, along with an idea of having ocean life on display in your home. And it means you always have an emergency midnight feast on hand, too. I'm not sure that's really the idea. Right? I thought there's another room behind that door. Yes, it's my bedroom, Naruto-san, as you well know. Shall I help you unpack your things? That's very kind, but no thank you. Your luggage look very heavy. Are you sure I can't help you move in? Very kind, but really, no thank you. A young maiden's private chamber is a place of bittersweet secrets, you know? Real! The only secret I have is the 5 yen banknote hidden on the back side of my Dorama doll. I feel like people already know about it, considering that he kind of opens his face. Everything else, you know? Alright. Let's see what the converse is. Yeah, that's just what to do. I didn't want that! No. We are going to move. Shalom's Suite, we've already been there before. I guess we could go there again, just really quick, like. 21st February. Shalom's Suite. Cool. Examine this real quick. Oh. You like this fireplace. It's one of the best I've seen since we arrived in the country, in fact. Though, I do yearn for a Japanese kotatsu. Putting your legs under a warm blanketed table is so comforting. Do be careful, Mr. Naruto. Don't mistakenly put your feet into the fire, will you? You'll suffer terrible burns, you know. I worry sometimes about how Sasato-san sees me. You're like a dog to her, I think. Like 100%. It's giving me really strong dog vibes, you know? Oh, she's typing! Iris? That's incredible concentration, that is. I find it quite remarkable how you could focus on many different things at once. Perhaps I should try drinking more herbal tea. The blend third from the right would be good for you, Runo. Oh, Iris? This girl is destined for great things, I'm sure. She's just typing away on her magical typewriter. Alright. I don't think there's much here for me. I just wanted to move there to see if there's anything else. Okay. This poor man. 21st February. Local prison. Cell 9. Look, Mr. Naruto. Mr. Natsumi. Have the police finished questioning you now? Look to it, Mr. Naruto Esquire. Oh, yes? What is he? Tell me! Is he a ghost? Is he here to haunt me? Let me guess. You're talking about Mr. Slomes? He actually calls himself a great detective, Mr. Natsume. Not a ghost. But his diabolical deductions, they're not of this world. He left me. Oh, cursed! I'm cursed, I tell you! Well, that sort of hurts. Credit where credit is due, Mr. Naruto. You were heavily involved in the deduction, too. Yes, moving on. He has some wonderful news. Oh? The victim that we all thought was dead has come back to life again. Now, in the absolute worst case, you could only be tried for attempted murder. That's right, isn't it, Mr. Natsume? That's terrible! Oh. I'm stuck in the cell, suffering for some silly, wrong end of the stick. You did it, didn't you? Confess, you're a killer. Why the mustache? Constant questions! I'm sorry to hear that. That's selfish as Sister. Make up your mind. Are you dead or alive? If you were going to come back to life, why bother dying? Really wish-washy, William! Well, it seems likely that Mr. Shamsphere is never actually dead in the first place. Yes, that might make sense. But I'm pleased that he's alive, of course. Our lively debate last night was much fun. I'd be sad to think it was our last. Oh? Oops! Mr. Natsume, does this mean that you did see the victim last night? You went with Mr. Shamsphere, didn't you? I'm not saying another word! I demand to have a lawyer present! Who do you think I am? Please, Mr. Natsume. We need to hear your side of the story. Okay. Why am I cursed like this? Well, first things first, of course. Jabam! Have I shown you this before, Mr. Natsume? Oh yes, the sweet, sweet aroma of our beloved homeland. It shows that the wearer is a defense lawyer. It means something in Great Britain, of course. But I still wear it. Oh, I know exactly how you feel, locomotive Mr. Naruto's Esquire. My Haramaki belly band. I don't feel right without it. Your Haramaki belly band? It's perfect for the cold English winters.
Just the things to keep my tummy warm.
Yes, I see the link. Almost. For sure. We cannot examine, but we can converse. Cursed existence. What about that? Mr. Natsume, you often say the same thing about yourself, I noticed. That you have a cursed existence?
I'm sure I mentioned this to you before, but I've been here in Great Britain for a year now. In that time, I've learned there's no place for me.
It'd be very trying to live in a foreign land and adapt to the ways of another culture.
There are foreigners everywhere I look, and they all stare at me. They all laugh. That's the impression I get whenever I go out. It makes me scared to leave my room. Which is why I've become a recluse. But even in my room, I found no reprise from my fears. I've moved more times than I can remember, and then 1 week ago, I moved into Briar Road.
Why? I mean, why do you choose that place? It doesn't seem very comfortable.
Because the rent is cheap. I have so little money, it spoke to me.
Rent?
Obviously, there's a reason why it's cheap. Because the room is cursed.
Cursed? Cursed how?
The previous occupants, the man who lived there before I took the room, died there.
Oh no!
He was only a young man, but one morning he was found dead, and no one could explain why.
Only no one would want to live in a room with a history like that.
I didn't. When the letting agents recommended the place, I wavered. But I want books, and books cost money. A horrible history is a small price to pay. When I realized it would mean I could buy more books, I signed the lease like lightning.
Brave or blinkered?
And after I moved in, I soon came to realize what I've done. I realized how horrible that room's history really was.
Gosh, was it really so awful? Well, horrible history then. How did the room's horrible history affect you, Mr. Natsume? What happened?
First, it was just a feeling. The feeling of beady eyes pouring into my back, watching me.
You think that might just have been your mind playing tricks on you?
No. My mind doesn't know any tricks. It was someone else. It's been one long nightmare even after, since I was given the keys to the place.
Nightmare? Been having bad dreams, you mean?
All the souls who've died in that room lean over at me in my sleep and try to strangle me!
That really is horrible.
And now I come to think of it, it happened again last night too. The very same night that Mr. Shamspeare was breathing in agony from the poison in his body. I was on the verge of being suffocated silently by those mystical spirits in my room.
You simply moved out of the room as soon as possible.
Yes, you're right. I know. And that's why I'm already searching for the next room with a history to call home.
I think perhaps you should try to avoid accommodations of any kind of history at all. Otherwise, I'm scared that you yourself may become history. The Salsa-san knows how to make the man listen. Poor guy, dude, like, for real. Can you tell us exactly what happened last night, then, Mr. Natsume?
There's nothing to tell. But, Mr. Naruto Esquire, I'm eternally grateful to you for helping me with that accursed case yesterday.
The case that saw poor Miss Green hospitalized after she ended up with a knife in her back.
hard to believe that was only yesterday. After the trial was over, I trudged my weary way back to my lowly lodgings. And that evening at past 9 it must have been, I visited Mr. Shamspear's.
So you did go to the victim's room then?
As we feared. I didn't do anything wrong! I never been in this room before. It was the first time!
Then what made you decide to go?
I bumped into him when I arrived back at the house. We got chatting and it developed into a discussion. But he had to go out, so I bade him farewell.
As with what Mr. Garbador said. The victim went out and came back after 8.
We met again later that evening, at around 9 or just after. When I looked at him, I took him some nice tea I brewed as a gift.
Because you brought the tea that had clearly been drunk at the scene then. And I suppose you were discussing the works of Shakespeare, were you?
Yes, that's right. That's exactly right. Romeo and Juliet! Who was the stronger? It was a delightful debate.
Sure.
Such a stimulating subject! Shakespeare!
And the debate became very heated, so you slipped poison into Mr. Shamspear's tea?
No! Never! Not at all! Team Juliet won. That was me, and when I left his room, the flamboyant fellow was fighting fit. I swear it, categorically! Of course, Mr. Lord the Mantor is worried about the curse on my room as well.
You, Mr. Garrideb?
Yes, he knows if people keep dying there, he'll never be able to rent it out again.
Well, that's true. I, for one, wouldn't go near the place.
Ah, perhaps.
That may explain why the landlord pays so much attention to the gas lamps and his tenants' movements. You mean because he's worried about their well-being? He seems to have an unusually keen interest in the amount of gas in the pipes. Must be a reason why he keeps such close tabs on accompaniments in his lit rooms.
What do you mean? He pays so much attention to the gas lamps. Oh dear, no, it's nothing to do with you, Mr. Natsumi. Please, forget I said anything. Oh, now you're talking about me behind my back as well.
The point is that Mr. Shamspear isn't in fact dead at all. Once he's come around, and he's able to tell us what happened, we'll be able to get you released.
Yes, please. Oh, I do hope you're right.
Excuse me. Inspector Grayson? Can't help over here in what you said. On that note, I have some good news and some bad news.
Oh?
Which do you want first?
Always, every time, the bad news comes first. When hope is all you have, hold on to it. That's my guiding principle.
Right, well, in that case, good news it is.
Huh?
Sorry, but it's just a lot easier to explain everything that way.
And why do you ask me for my preference?
You might have heard the victim, Mr. Shamspear, was just unconscious. It's come around now. As we saw it happen in all its terrifying glory. He's still being treated by the doctors, but we've managed to get a written statement from him already.
Oh, is that wonderful, Mr. Natsume? Oh, thank goodness. It's all over then. I can leave the sombre cell.
Sorry, no. That's not on the cards.
What? Why ever not, Inspector?
Mr. Shamspear has implicated someone as being responsible for what happened last night. Implicated someone.
Oh dear. You don't mean...
Sorry to say I do. Yes. Want to figure out you. It's a Natsume. Ah! By sweet poison that he seeketh to end my life. The wicked Garrideb, Soseki Natsume. No. I'm afraid you all be appearing in court as planned. I'll be waiting to make the necessary preparations. No! And so, once again, Suzuki-san found himself having to take the dock in the Old Bailey. Whether his room was haunted or whether he was just terribly unlucky, I knew I had no choice. The following day, I will represent him in court, and do my utmost to break the curse that blighted him. To be continued. Thank you all for watching, everybody. Like, comment, subscribe if you can, and I'll see y'all next time, okay? Sayonara! Bye-bye!